Our next speaker, Natalie-Francesca, graduated from last May from Colby College with the double major in English literature and biology, concentrating in ecology and evolution, as well as a minor in environmental studies. Nat is stationed at Marin Water, the first municipal water district in the state, and one that continues to be unique in its continued management of watershed lands. I won't talk too much about what Nat's done this year because I know she's going to speak a lot about that. But while not at the ranger station, you can find Nat pandering to the whims of her criminally oversized orange cat, playing guitar or reading, especially when the world building involves the conception of sustainable alternatives to our present relationships to global and local systems. We are so excited to have Nat speak, and I will pass the mic over to her.
But I guess I'll just get started. So my name is Natalie-Francesca Woods. Nat, to those of us who are at a volunteer event, it's a little bit quicker to say in those moments. And I was lucky enough to serve for Marin Water this past year. I've been stationed up at the ranger station, and it's been an incredible experience. So today I just wanted to talk to you all a little bit about watershed health and stewardship on Mount Tamalpais. First, I'd like to give a land acknowledgement. So though Marin Water is the oldest municipal water district in the state, founded in 1912, the watershed that we began to serve had already been carefully cultivated for thousands of years by the indigenous communities of the land now called Marin County. So today we work, operate, and steward the traditional homelands of the Coast Miwok tribe and express our respect for elders past, present, and future. We also acknowledge the stewardship and longstanding connections these communities have fostered and continue to do so with Mount Tamalpais, and we must seek to be in conversation with the Coast Miwok community if we wish to restore a just, equitable relationship with the landscape. So with that being said, then I will also tell you a little bit about the water district. So again, we were founded in 1912. We manage roughly 20,000 acres and serve 190,000 residents with clean, safe drinking water. This water is sourced from 5 reservoirs. The first reservoir that we established was Lake Lagunitas. We also have Bon Tempe Reservoir, Alpine Lake, Kent Lake, and Phoenix Lake. We also are implementing the BIFIP, which is the Biodiversity, Fire, and Fuels Integrated Plan, affectionately called the BIFIFIP sometimes at the ranger station, which essentially is a working plan to implement early detection, rapid response of invasive plants. It's working on Douglas fir encroachment in our oak woodlands and meadows. It's looking at the establishment of fuel breaks. It's a massive, massive undertaking, and we're a few years into it now. So that was something that it's a 218-page document, which I just verified that it is 218 pages. And it is something that we seek to implement as much as possible. Mount Tam is also a UNESCO biodiversity hotspot. So just a few of these species are the federally and state listed species of special concern, the foothill yellow-legged frog, which breeds in one of our more popular trails, the Little Carson Falls Trail. We have a large intact population of northern spotted owls. It's the southernmost extent of their range at this point. There's Pacific madrones, purple needle grasses, waxcap mushrooms, jewel flowers, and so many more. It is truly like a playground, and I could never hope to know all the species, but there are risks to some of these things because we also are a popular recreational space. Mount Tam hosts visitors from across the world. Like I've talked to people who have visited from Germany, and I asked if they were coming for the city mostly, and they said, no, actually, we just wanted to do the Cataract Falls Trail, which is pretty great. We also have a lot of visitation from the Bay Area itself. So with those species of special concern, it is something that we are very mindful of. So some of our existing challenges are that, we're managing 20,000 acres, and the water district employs about 300 people. Of those 300, 250 work in distribution and sales. There are like 50 odd of us that work on the watershed at any given time. a solution to this that we've devised is working with seasonal aids and AmeriCorps. We've been with the Watershed Stewards program since its inception, and I'm grateful to be GrizzlyCorps' first partner with the district, and I know that we'll be continuing that in the future. There are also introduced species such as French and Scotch broom, which we're working to abate, whether through volunteers, which I'll talk about in a little bit, or through contractors, just since there are 50 of us. We also have fewer than 10 rangers within those 50. So it's a working progress to make sure that we're finding solutions that are adaptive to the needs of both the watershed and the visitors, whilst also recognizing that we must prioritize things. So the order of priority for that would be distribution of safe and clean drinking water to the residents of the county, then implementation of watershed management actions to support the resilience and continuity of the ecosystem, and then also maintaining a safe and open recreational space for anybody who would like to enjoy the beautiful nature of Mount Tam. So then I guess the question is, what do I do? I work for the Marin Water Volunteer Program. I work with Suzanne. It's been a fantastic experience. Within that, the project breakdown when I was beginning to work for GrizzlyCorps said 10% research, 20% planning, and 70% education and outreach, which involves a lot of kind of recruiting those volunteers, sustaining those relationships, making sure that everyone's having a good and safe time on the watershed, and learning as much as possible. So there are things like Instagram, we have some third-party websites, and then within the research side of things, we've also been trying to get broadcast burns off the ground. So kind of helping out with that. I feel like it's been really great at the watershed in that we all we eat lunch together usually. And so we can talk about the projects that are ongoing on the watershed, and see who needs an extra set of hands. So have helped out with like WSP and some of their projects before. We've also had folks come out and help us with our events. So very collaborative space. So I thought it might be interesting to just talk you through a day in the life kind of. So this is my desk. You can see a poster that we've put up around the watershed. You can see the gator out in the corpse yard. You're in the skybox from the seat looking at the ranger box and the fish box, or sorry, not the fish box, the ice box, those named after the things that are kind of respectively in those spaces. So to begin, this is just like a random Thursday. Maybe it's before a broom pull, probably in the spring as we have our ambassador programs going. So I would grab a hot coffee from the city and drive the long way up Mount Tam, stopping at Rock Springs, which is where we're hoping to do our prescribed burn. I would forget my hot coffee in the car, get back from that about an hour later, dropping off the data that I collected on the fuel moisture monitoring with Lauren, our GIS specialist, chatting about interesting points. Maybe also check in with Carl, who's our natural resources manager on the mountain. I would receive a good morning in that voice exactly from John Fouché, who's our head of maintenance, and then begin checking the volunteer email, trying to send out the information about the burn data, and then finishing off the now cold coffee whilst browsing our social media pages and promoting the weekend event a little bit more. We'd all get lunch together outside, kind of updating each other about the projects around the watershed that might need another set of hands. Then getting back from that, finalizing our event email, making sure that everyone knows how to get there, where to get there, making sure that they know they can have a volunteer parking pass if they're volunteering with us. Just finalizing that info. Then switching over a little bit, I'd process some docent data sheets from our ambassadors program, which I will talk about in a bit. Checking in with my supervisor, Suzanne, maybe about something like trout in the classroom when schools from Marin come up and release their baby trout into the spillway underneath Lake Lagunitas. So lots and lots of kind of like, how are our visitors doing kind of stuff, and any upcoming partner activities that we're meant to be promoting or we will be assisting with. And then I would finish off my day with either some reading and researching about Marin's fire ecology, since we were at that point in the development of our summer ambassadors program, which was surrounding forest health and fire ecology, or maybe adding to maybe adding to that master document, or processing some SD cards from the Marin Wildlife Picture Index project. So it might be any combination of those things, making sure to kind of check for any straggling emails. We always got a couple of like, wait, so where's Mount Tam anyway, or something like that. But we also had a lot of regulars, which was amazing. So I wanted to I feel like the volunteers really made my experience like just above and beyond. And so I wanted to appreciate them. I also took a bunch of kind of dorky time lapses during our habitat restoration one. So I'll let that run in the background. Our summary was for our watershed ambassadors, both frog docents and also the New Forest Health program. We have a litter abatement program that's pretty fantastic. We ran some teen communications workshops through the Marin Water Volunteer Program, as well as there was turtle observer docents, that was mostly a WSP initiative. College of Marin also came up a few times to do some field days. You can see that in the bottom right corner. There were Tamalpais bee labs. There was gardening with our friends over at the Meadow Club, and just so much more. It was really, really fantastic. Of course, habitat restoration as well, which you can see the top two pictures from. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like the power of One TAM, which is this mutualistic relationship between Cal State Parks, Marin County Parks, National Park Service, us at Marin Water, and also one nonprofit, the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, which is the kind of education and outreach component of the National Park Service. But together we were able to kind of share these resources where if somebody had a little bit of funding, or they had like the TAM van, for example, then they could park it on the person who had the land or the volunteers. And through doing so, we could have programs like the Tamalpais Bee Lab, which is kind of led primarily by somebody who works for the Parks Conservancy, but it's hosted at like in our corpse yard and in our maintenance garage. And in doing so, we are able to bring 15 to 20 people up every weekend, depending on restrictions, to really engage in a community science initiative where everyone's learning and we're also contributing to science. We can do things like the bald-tailed broom bus, where we would travel over to Marin County Parks, but then we have enough staff to have a lot more volunteers, just keeping things safe, to remove French broom, which is this wicked invasive species. But we could also do things like what's kind of on the right side of this slide, which is develop a self-guided tour around Lake Lagunitas, or even offer kind of these guided tours with folks on site. Who has the time, who has the graphic designer and all of that. So one of those community science initiatives that was also a collaboration with One TAM is our frog docents, our watershed ambassadors program. We had 24 ambassadors. They completed 51 shifts. They spent more than 190 hours on site, and that's just by our counts. And they engaged with more than 1,000 visitors to promote information about the sensitive foothill yellow-legged frogs. You can see them in plexus over here, which always feels like a tiny bit rude to show pictures of, but it's a pretty interesting shot, I think. And you can see kind of us processing those data sheets on the right side of the screen. We also had so many habitat restorations. So I'm going to click my little time lapses. So some of the collaborations that we kind of did throughout the year was one with CVNL. We had one with the Parks Conservancy, Marin Stables and Trails, GrizzlyCorps, of course, you all came out one time, Marin County Parks for that bald-tailed broom bus, and even WX brands. 850 hours through November to May. We were grateful for those atmospheric rivers, even if they were a bit dreary. We washed 237 pairs of gloves, and we cleared more than 5 acres of this broom. So one of the things also with us being a watershed that prioritizes clean and safe drinking water is we don't use pesticides or herbicides or anything like that. So it really is a humongous volunteer effort to do hand pulls and get those broom out of the ground, and try and work on that, both from like a fuels perspective and also just as they affect the ecology of the landscape. We also have our summer ambassadors and materials. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this since it's what's ongoing right now. If any of you would like to come out and be trained as an ambassador, I will be there on Friday and I can give you that training. But we have a master binder Q&A. This is basically just talking about the forest health work that we've been doing, both as Marin Water and also within one TAM to steward Mount Tamalpais. Here's the TAM van setup, and just maybe assuage some anxieties surrounding fire, as we prepare to do a broadcast burn, explain things like pile burning that's ongoing on the landscape, and also kind of treatments that we have implemented around the watershed that might be confusing to somebody who doesn't have all that natural resources lingo, or is just like, why is this beautiful Madrone out on the ground in pieces? So kind of being able to explain that. We've also been able to start doing things such as coffee clutches with one TAM. So this is another instance of that where I worked with, for example, Michaela, who works for the Parks Conservancy, and helped in the development so much of that self-guided tour. But it's just kind of like a casual little get together. So really, if we're so few people on the watershed, it's rare that the visitors will like really get a chance to talk to us. So kind of offering those opportunities. And yeah, we'll have our last one this Saturday. So if you want to stop by from 10 to noon, I will have hot coffee. It is free. I will not ask you to sign any newsletter signups, but I will give you a free map or any information that you might be curious about. So yeah, so looking forward to next year. There will continue to be efforts on the watershed towards preparing for the implementation of those burns. Victor, another GrizzlyCorps, will be assuming my position, and I'm very excited. I think he's going to get so much information and care from our volunteers, and it's going to be just fantastic. I will be serving again with GrizzlyCorps, though, for working with Eliza and Jasmine in a different program, but I'm very excited to come back, and I have every intention of becoming a frog docent, more from the volunteer side of things in the future than my current role. But yeah, very, very excited. So I just wanted to pop some highlights on here. Thank you so much to Marin Water, Suzanne, Carl, Sabrina, so many other people for like the incredible experience, to like all of our volunteers, to GrizzlyCorps for introducing me to many people, including one of my roommates for next year. Hello, Madibo. And also to my roommates currently for putting up with the occasional taxidermy that comes home, the grizzlies that have crashed on our floor, and just for being amazing people. So yeah, thank you.
Nat, that was amazing. Thank you so much. If anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand and we can ask you to unmute yourself.
I'm going to jump in first. Thanks, Nat, for sharing. And I love, this is Suzanne, sorry, this is Nat's mentor. I love seeing all your presentations. It's just such a amazing program. This is our first year doing Grizzly. I've had lots of AmeriCorps from lots of different programs, and Grizzly is just, you guys are really strong. I'm really impressed and very happy to be getting from someone next year as well. And yeah, Nat would need a few hours to show all the things that she did on the watershed. We really threw everything at her, and I want to thank her so much for being flexible and always excited. Like, it didn't matter what task we threw at her, she was 100% in. And like, just as an example, I was working with one of our volunteers at the TAM van last week, Judy, and Judy could not stop talking about how great Nat is at the TAM van and setting things up, and and engaging with people, and how Nat would, if a giant group of small little campers would show up, she would like bust out different things, and she would like go and play games with them because their parents hadn't picked them up from camp. Like, this is not, that's not part of her job, is to watch campers as they're like, their parents are late, but she would not let that opportunity pass her by to engage them in wildlife trivia or talking about forest health or anything like that. So you're just always 100% on that, and I really appreciate it, and I'm really happy that you're gonna be with Grizzly again next year.
So much. I have actually a picture of Kim's dog on here. Oh, maybe we don't. Oh shoot, he's gone. But Plato is Yes, he's down here. He's very cute. So,
Well, I think we have time for one more question or comment. Carl, I see your hand up.
Hey there, Eliza. Hey, Nat, just it's been rewarding to watch your progression from when you first landed on the mountain, and we threw a lot of stuff at you and you jumped right into it and had input right off the bat. And I just want to say thank you, and we greatly appreciate your input and the lift that you gave to the broad number of outreach projects that we conducted throughout the year. So again, thank you.
much.
Well, thank you so much, Nat. There's lots of appreciation in the chat as well. I'm going to go ahead and stop this presentation.